The mystery of the circles has attracted nothing like the same interest from orthodox scientists. Most seem to have found the phenomenon not worthy of the effort of explanation. But one lonely voice has been arguing his case for 11 years now, against the intuitive explanation of dowsers and in favor of a scientific analysis.
So I am indeed fighting for science and against the irrationalities of the paranormal people.
Terence Meaden is an academic physicist by training who's been obsessed with the circles ever since he first came across them. A local Wiltshireman, he spent 9 years abroad, teaching solid-state physics in the universities of Grenoble in France and Dalhousie in Canada. In 1974, he inherited his father's motor business and returned to Wiltshire with his young family to run it. Today, his son runs the business of restoring classic cars, while Terence Meaden runs a different scientific concern from above the garage.
On returning to Britain, I decided that I would create a business in meteorology. It's one of the easier subjects for a fully qualified physicist to handle, and I had always maintained a deep interest in meteorology.
Meaden's business, Toro, comprises a scientific monthly, the Journal of Meteorology, and a meteorological consultancy selling advice to insurance companies. His expertise in this field led the government to commission him to write a report assessing the risk of tornado damage to the Sizewell nuclear reactor. A tornado is just one dramatic and destructive variety of a common phenomenon, the atmospheric vortex, a mass of swirling, spinning air. Meaden's background in the study of vortices immediately suggested a cause for the mysterious circles which he first learnt about from a photo in the Wiltshire Times in 1980.
Now that attracted my attention at once because the circularity and the spiral lie of the corn made me think at once, this is the sort of thing that an atmospheric vortex could make. Now a primary difficulty is that in the fair weather whirlwind, the inflow of air is such that the motion is upwards, and such motion could never of itself create a crop circle, which is clearly made by downward flow. So I suppose that if a fair weather whirlwind had been involved, something must have happened to it to cause it to temporarily give a downrush of air.
Terence Meaden spent the next few summers patrolling high vantage points around the White Horse looking for circles. His growing data bank suggested a connection with Wiltshire's topography, as circles tended to form at the foot of hills. Research also suggested they formed in calm weather conditions. This indicated to Meaden a possible mechanism for his vortex. Meaden's diagram shows how a rising wind can affect calm air in the lee of a hill and generate an upward spinning air column. As in a tornado, the complex interaction between the upward flow and its spinning component can become unstable and create a downflowing system, the bulge in the column. If the spinning bulge reaches the ground, a spiral-centered mark is carved in the crop.
I mean, I could oversimplify it by saying that the air is rushing in so efficiently that it's coming in faster than it can get out. And this leads to a kind of bulge in the middle. And then this bulge releases its tension by breaking away downwards, in fact.
But that on its own doesn't account for the circle's characteristic sharp edge. According to Meaden, the spinning component of the vortex lays down the corn in a spiral. But the electrification of the air by spinning creates a state known as a plasma, a quasi-solid with a defined shell. This gives the vortex, in effect, a cutting edge which lays the crop precisely. Meaden christened this phenomenon a plasma vortex. According to Meaden, this theory explained all the occurrences of the single, simple circles that had first caught his attention.
But here we've got the standard evidence for descent of a vortex. Implied by the center here is axial symmetry. The whirling vortex that made the circle came down, and in a matter of probably less than a second, it spun out this little circle.
But by 1983, circles weren't always single. However, Terence Meaden felt the basic hypothesis of a plasma vortex could still explain new, larger groupings of circles.
It seems highly probable that quintuplet sets of circles cannot be formed in any other way except by the breakup at the moment of impact with the ground of a vortex which was bearing within itself 4 smaller vortices.
Presenting a refined hypothesis was one thing, but Meaden encountered more difficulty with the next stage of the scientific process, verifying it. Up until this summer, he'd made a start by collecting together a body of eyewitness reports of circles being formed, which he believes vindicates his case.
It was very much like cutting a flan. That was the thing that struck me, cutting a flan out of a tin with one of these flan cutters that go round. The line started at about 1 o'clock and rotated back to the start position. Took about 4 seconds to cut the circle down.
We found ourselves in a circle being pushed, and from inward going outward we started noticing little spirals, a little vortex like fog. They were like fog, not too dense, almost like fog, misty appearance, and they were shimmering. And this was sort of wrapping around the corn at that sort of angle, going round like that, anti-clockwise, and swirling round the corn, and the corn dropping.
Orthodox science doesn't believe that such eyewitness reports, however convincing and accurately remembered and reported, can be a substitute for controlled experimental verification in laboratory conditions. Up until now, Terence Meaden's scarce resources made this impossible. But this summer, help finally began to arrive, but not from fellow scientists in Britain. Professor Yoshihiko Otsuki of Waseda University in Tokyo and his team of researchers have proved one of Terence Meaden's most invaluable allies. Otsuki brings resources and vital credibility to Meaden's hitherto isolated research program. A distinguished radiation physicist, Otsuki studies ball lightning, mysterious lights in the lower atmosphere. He believes that ball lightning, or as he calls it, plasma fire, is electrified air like Meaden's plasma vortex. But ball lightning leaves no trace, which accounts for Otsuki's interest in crop circles.
In crop circles, see, there are very nice mark patterns in crop circle. So this is very nice for the research works of plasma vortex or the natural plasma fire.
But despite many attempts, Otsuki has been unable to prove the existence of ball lightning in the laboratory until recently. Pumping microwaves into a specially built apparatus, he believes he has artificially created ball lightning. What's most encouraging for Meaden is that the plasma fire leaves marks when a plate of aluminium dust is placed in the apparatus. For dust marks read crop circles. But despite this circumstantial support for the plasma theory, the phenomenon has still not yielded up its mystery. This summer has seen new and increasingly complicated patterns in the crops, which has kept the controversy vigorously bubbling over.